When the archer stands at full draw, he is holding the full draw weight of the bow. His muscles are tense, holding the body and pulling against the bow. At the point of release, these muscles continue pulling, but the body is now free to move with his effort, and it snaps to a new position. This snap action is the pure and natural response to the release. Understanding this will help us to understand how we are pulling and what our follow-through should be. Let's look at our archer and the stresses at full draw. The bow applies forces upon the archer at the grip and the string. The archer counters the force of the grip with his bow hand. Most of this force is taken directly and compressively into the bow arm and into his shoulder. He counters the force of the string with his draw hand. The force to pull the draw arm back comes from a moment about the draw shoulder, and this requires back tension. These are the basic forces that everybody knows about, but they are not the full picture. At the bow hand, there is an angle between the bow arm and the line of force. This angle causes a misalignment of forces and results in a lateral force pulling the hand and arm forward. This force must be countered by a moment about the bow arm at the shoulder, and this also requires back tension. The angle at the bow shoulder causes more problems. As the bow arm pushes into the shoulder, most of the compressive force is taken directly and compressively into the shoulder line, but some of it pushes the shoulder back and out of line. This force must be countered with muscular action. At the draw arm, the pulling force causes a compressive loading on the upper arm, pushing it into the shoulder. These are the simple forces for the archer with the draw arm in line. But as I have said before, few archers are actually in line at the draw arm. Basic body proportions rarely allow a perfectly aligned archer. These out-of-line archers require an additional force to hold the draw hand in. This is caused by a moment about the draw elbow. This moment is powered by the bicep. In order to keep his wrist straight, the archer must keep his inner forearm tense also. All of these forces are statically held, waiting for the release to set them free. At the point of the release, many of these forces disappear immediately from the archer. And, under the tension of the muscles, the body is free to snap to a new position. If the archer is out of line, at the draw hand, as a result of the forearm tension, the hand snaps in at the wrist. The back tension, creating the moment on the draw arm, works in conjunction with whatever muscular effort the archer coordinates with his arm to pull the arm and hand back. The compressive forces on the bow arm are released and the bow arm stretches forward. The release of the compressive forces at the bow shoulder allows it to move out also. And the moment at the bow shoulder pulls the bow hand back. Also, as a result of all these actions, there is often a twisting of the body, or not. Let's look at that all as one action. For the fully inline archer, the force diagram is easier. Many of the forces are reduced. Others are eliminated completely. And the body response is smoother and straighter. From the front, the line of force does not follow along the arrow. The line of force is a line between the pressure points of the two hands. So proper alignment is a line passing through the pressure point of the bow hand, the nocking point, and the draw elbow. It is at a slight angle to the arrow. Let's look at some inline archers and see how this looks in practice. You can see that all these archers are straight in line, and they are pulling directly against the bow force. From the frontal view, the 3 points of concern are the reactions at the bow hand, the nocking point and chin, and the draw arm. First, let's look at the bow hand. When an archer lifts his bow arm must apply a force to support the weight of the bow. At full draw, the bow force is also pushing against his hand. This force is resisted by the bow arm and taken compressively along the bow arm to the shoulder. There is an angle between these two forces, and this creates an upward force on the bow arm. This reduces the weight that the archer must lift vertically with his bow arm. This means that the bow arm is not providing the full force to lift the weight of the bow. Some of it is being held by his draw arm. This means that at the point of release, some of the lifting force holding the bow up is released, and therefore it is natural to see the bow arm drop a little bit. Many archers counter this by applying extra lift at the bow arm at the point of release. This is a synchronized activity and has much potential for error, but many find that they can do it quite well. Some archers apply so much extra lift at the point of release that they actually lift their bow higher, as with this example. At the nocking point, the archer pulls against the force of the bow with his draw hand, and the bow pulls forward against his hand. At this point, many archers also push up against the chin in order to ensure that they are anchoring solidly. This can cause problems. At the point of release, the hand will come out from under the chin, and the hand will naturally snap up to the cheek or the ear as it moves back, rather than just coming straight back. Let's look at this in action. Ignore where this archer starts and finishes. Follow the path of the hand in slow motion. You can see the hand first snaps in as a result of the wrist tension, and then it moves up into the cheek as a result of the force pushing into the chin. The follow-through brings it back down in line, but this has nothing to do with the stresses at the point of release. The caution here is that this vertical force is variable. Depending upon the variability of this force, this will vary the release action and vary the shot. Vertical misalignment at the nocking point can cause problems as adverse as horizontal misalignment. This archer is out of line vertically. Notice how high his draw elbow is. he must be applying a strong adverse vertical load in order to support this angle. Either he is letting his hand rest up against his chin, in which case his chin and neck are applying the force, or he is pulling down with his arm. Let's look at these two methods of holding the angle and see how the response is different. If the archer lets his chin hold the hand down, the chin is pushing down and the hand is pulling up. When the archer releases, the hand comes out from under the chin, the hand is no longer held down and it will come up to the cheek or ear. If the archer is holding the angle by pulling his hand down with his arm, the hand will move down under the arm tension and give the familiar chest thump released. Depending upon how it is handled, the same alignment error can cause opposite effects, but they are both bad. The other misalignment problem is the low elbow. This results in a negative angle which can only be supported by the arm pushing the hand up. When the archer releases, the hand will move up, much like the situation discussed earlier of the inline archer pushing up against his chin. The draw arm has the most complexity of any of these points. Ideally, the hand is being pulled straight back. If done correctly, this is being performed with just the back tension. Many archers, however, bring in the side muscles also, and this applies a downward force to the arm. This is often shown by creeping down at the elbow at full draw. As you can see, this can create a lot of variability in the direction of the pull at the point of release. Also, this tension is shown by a sharp snap down of the elbow upon release. For the inline archer with proper technique, these are the simple forces. At the point of release, the bow forces are removed from the body, but the muscle tension forces remain and pull the body to a new position. The force pulling back on the draw hand moves the draw arm back. The elimination of the compressive bow load on the bow arm allows the bow arm to stretch out. And the loss of the lift supporting load from the draw arm causes the bow arm to drop slightly. Let's look at it again as one action. Now that we understand what we're looking for, let's look at some real archers and see it in action.
Let's look at some real archers and see this all in action. We'll learn to spot the natural response and distinguish it from the follow-through actions. Let's start by looking at this perfectly normal archer. We see a perfectly normal release, but did we see everything? Did we understand it? Let's look at the components of the response. First, we see the snap of the hand in as a result of the wrist tension. We can also see the bow arm stretch out and the draw elbow coming straight back. This indicates that she is pulling well with back tension. Then we see the bow arm dropping a little bit and swinging back under back tension. This is normal. Let's watch it again and look for those points. Notice also the extra follow-through and where it starts. Immediately after the snap in of the wrist. It brings the hand back, but it's too late. The arrow is long gone and the damage is already done. Here we see a very good release from an archer who starts out in line. We can very clearly see the snap back of the draw hand and the stretching out of the bow arm. Notice how the snap back of the draw hand is extra strong. Clearly she is adding extra force at the point of release. Notice also how her elbow moves down from the start. This comes from using side muscle tension to help her pull at full draw. Watch her again and look for these points on your own. Here we see an archer who starts out of line. We know what to look for first. There it is, the snap in of the wrist. From this angle, we can also see the normal swing back of the bow arm very clearly, and the slight drop in the bow arm. Look at it again. Here we see a good example of the bow arm stretching out and swinging back under back tension. It is very clean and very natural. The short snapback of the draw hand with no additional follow through goes only as far as the natural response will carry it. Watch again. This archer starts out of line, so we look for the wrist snap. And there it is. Notice as his draw elbow moves down under side muscle tension. In fact, the whole torso moves under this tension. Then note as the whole upper body stretches out with the unloading. Both the bow arm and the draw arm extend out. And finally, the bow arm drops. By understanding all that, we can understand a lot about what this archer was doing at the time of release. Notice this archer as his draw elbow begins by moving straight back and then down as part of an add-on follow-through, using the side muscles. Also notice the extreme drop in the bow arm. This indicates that upon release, he lets up on the bow arm tension. This archer starts out of line, so we look for the wrist snap. And there it is, very clear. Notice also how she keeps her bow arm straight out through the release. She does it smoothly, but we understand that there is an extra effort that is added in at the point of release. On this archer, we see the bow arm and the draw arm stretching out as they unload. Notice as the whole body seems to expand. This is common among archers shooting with a high draw weight bow. Also note how his hand comes back in one action behind the neck. This is an indication that he is adding effort in at the point of release. With this archer, we see the wrist snap in. But we also see the draw arm move up once the hand is no longer under the chin. This indicates that he was pushing up against the chin at the point of release. Once the chin is no longer there to hold the hand in place, the hand comes up. The downward motion of the draw elbow shows that he brings his side muscles into the activity. And here, with our final archer, we can see it all nice and clean and short. By studying these natural responses to the release, we can better understand the release and what the follow-through should accomplish. We need to know the way the body wants to move. Resisting it is to resist the natural response. Forcing it is to make it unnatural. Understanding it enables the archer and the coach to interpret the stresses at the point of release better and to determine whether errors occur as a function of the release or the setup of the body before the release.